Hi guys! We are back with another episode of Better Than Sex. My name is Julia Reed Nichols.
And I am Kitty Cat DeMille, and today we have a special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us your elevator pitch on who you are in the sexy spectrum?
I'm Misspent Youth. I am the girl you wish lived next door. That's my little tagline. I'm a burlesque performer, producer, and teacher here in Los Angeles, really promoting sensuality, sexuality, and body positivity and confidence.
Awesome. So, how did you get into the world of sexy jobs? What was foray into the world of sexiness?
I think I've always kind of been there. I've always been very into like classic erotica and anything like the vintage glam sexuality that I see in like old movies and things like that. So I was always really into it. I was in love with burlesque, just thought it was super cool. But just thought like, well, I could never do that. Like, no one would ever want to see me on stage. I'm not a dancer. I can't do the splits, And then, my husband, actually, my partner, really just encouraged me and said, like, look at these other women, really look at them. They're all shapes and sizes, all ages, and you have something that you don't need to do the splits. You don't need to tap dance. You don't need to be a powerhouse dancer because you have that sensuality. So he really gave me the confidence to like dive in and try it. And it's just been like my home. Like this is where I should have always been. Right. But I think, everything comes at the right time in your life. I was ready to sort of live in my sensuality and take charge of that, be proud of it,
Mm-hmm. Did you take classes or did you just jump into being a burlesque dancer?
I took classes, so I was really fortunate. I took with Lily Von Stoop. Mm-hmm. She's sort of infamous here in Los Angeles and I think all over the country. But when I started, she was still producing Monday Night Tease and still teaching. And I had seen Monday Night Tease many times, so my husband actually gifted me classes with her for Valentine's Day one year. And, we didn't know where it would lead to. At first it was like, oh, I'm not going to tell anyone because, I might be awful and, I might never do it again or whatever. But no, once I had my first performance, even though I was shaking, I was literally like shaking so badly, I didn't think I was going to be able to get my bra off because it was like, but I was so happy. And I was just like, okay, this is like where I want to be. There's like no turning back.
What was what did you choose as your first number? I always find it interesting in the world of burlesque to hear people's first numbers.
Yeah, I did an Elvis tune called Too Much. It's very cutesy and bouncy, very cheesecake, which I had thought like, okay, that's going to be my brand. I'm going to be this like cheesecake pinup that's just like really cutesy, kind of like the opposite of what I am in real life. I'm like not cutesy and all that stuff. So that was my first number. And then I really realized really quickly that your brand isn't always like what you want it to be, right? Like I wanted it to be this cutesy little thing, but that really wasn't me. Like I can do that and that's a fun character, but my real persona, where I flourish is a more sensual sort of character.
Nice. And what would you say is like a signature act that you have?
Signature act is probably, I'm trying to think of what I get asked to do the most. Jessica Rabbit is a very popular act. I get asked to do that a lot just because I can pull her off very well, right? Mm-hmm. When you think of Jessica Rabbit, you think of red hair and big boobs and a tiny waist, and that's me. So in a way, that's sort of a signature because I get booked with that a lot. But I would say, you know, my Come On Boys act is a signature, and my Same Evil act are both signature acts. They're very 1920s, very flapper girl, very fun. Same Evil is like more of a bump and grind, and it's very sexy, lots of boa work, big stocking peels, lots of audience interaction, which is also a big part of my sort of signature thing. And then Come On Boys is just like this 20s sort of like celebration of flapper fun. And so like those are probably my two most popular numbers.
Nice. And how are you doing during quarantine in regards to all the changes?
It's been interesting. It's definitely been an adjustment. I am very fortunate. I'm still working my day job. So I have something to do every day and kind of keep me on a schedule, which I feel like sort of makes a really big difference. I sort of took my time with doing online performances. It took me a minute to sort of figure out how I wanted to do that and how I could make that. But I've really enjoyed sort of playing with that format and really exploring, like, because a big part of when I perform is audience interaction. I love getting in the audience and doing, having someone help me with my glove peel, sitting in someone's lap while I do a stocking peel. I mean, I leave my clothes all over the venue. So having to sort of rethink that and say, how do I do that on camera instead of in person? So it's been interesting, and it's been a way to sort of flex my creative muscles. We're doing some kind of innovative stuff. So I'm a co-producer and creator of Babylon Cabaret, which is an all live music burlesque show. So we really had a challenge on like, how can we do a live music show during quarantine when everyone's separated, and we can't get everyone together to rehearse. We can't get everyone together to perform. I mean, we normally have about 16 people in our cast. We have backup singers, we have a full band, we have backup dancers, so we really had to rethink that. And I think we've come up with a really cool format and a really cool way to bring that to our audience. Because who knows how long we're going to be in this sort of situation. So,
right. What is your distribution point? Are you using Zoom? Are you using Facebook? How are you putting on the shows? Like the technological aspects of it? Like what's the format?
Yeah, so we're doing, last month we actually did an in-person show because here in LA you could do stuff out on the patio. So we did a patio show with very, very limited seating and a very limited cast, and brought that live Vimeo, which went really well. It was really, really cool and fun. But for this month, we're doing something completely different. We're actually taping the show live like a television special. So we're going to be in a studio. We have a 3-camera live setup, just like the way they film like TV. So we'll have a live edit of the show from the different camera angles. And then we're broadcasting that over Zoom. So our host will be in a remote place. So again, we're just trying to kind of keep people as separate as possible. So our host can be somewhere else and she can tee up all the numbers that we're doing from the studio. So it's going to be different. It's a big endeavor.
Yeah,
lots of tech.
That's a huge endeavor.
I was about to ask, is that like I mean, as someone who produces burlesque shows myself, is that a significantly higher investment than you would normally be putting into a show?
Oh yeah. I mean, ordinarily the venue that we're at, El Cid, they're very grateful to have us. So, it doesn't cost us anything to do the show there. We're in partnership with them because we're bringing in audience, right? So for this, we're paying for a studio. I'm fortunate to have some great connections in film. So a friend of mine is coming in to set up all these cameras and do this live edit. Ordinarily, you would need a pretty, large crew to do that, but we don't want to have that many people in the space.
Right.
So he's gonna do it all himself. He set up cameras, make it work. So it's an investment. We're definitely taking a big chance that we're going to be able to make our money back on it, but we really felt like it's worth it, right? Like we want to do something new that no one else is really doing. We want to capture the live music aspect of Babylon Cabaret, since that's so important to our show. It's all live music. It's mostly original. So our musical director writes songs for the performers and for the show. So yeah, we're taking the chance. We'll see how it goes.
So you're recording it and then you're going to project it at El Cid for the diners. Is that correct? Did I get that right?
We'll be projecting it online. We won't be doing anything.
Okay.
Yeah, we won't be doing anything at El Cid this month because of the spike. We don't want to promote people gathering.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, so people can see it all over the country, and we're really hoping that people will take advantage of this opportunity, because ordinarily you'd have to come to LA to see the show, and now you can see it no matter where you are. So we're hoping that'll help build a buzz and really bring people into it.
Can I ask how are you planning on marketing the show? Because so many of the social medias are so biased against burlesque. Like you basically can't market on Facebook, right? Like you can put up an event, but beyond that, like that's all you can do. So how do you reach a new audience virtually online with a burlesque show?
It's definitely tough. Like you said, Facebook, I mean, they banned a photo last month from our show that was just me, like laying on a bed, completely covered. I mean, lingerie, but corset, everything, so completely covered. So, and then there was a cropped version of just my face, and they banned that picture too for being, sexual content.
I have this feeling, because we had Sienna Sinclair on a couple weeks ago, and she's like banned like every which way to Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
She only recently could share the episode she was on because she got back. And I think that like it's almost like as you get more strikes, they're more inclined to ban you automatically for stuff, because it just seems that like the stuff that she posted that she got banned for was like,
well, we used to get banned for showing cleavage. Like, yes. Remember when we would, so like we would like post our tank tops that were like merchandise shirts that we were like, look at the shirts we're selling. And they would ban the image of the shirt because they said our boobs were like too prominent.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm sorry that I'm not flat. What do you want from me? Like, that's the shirt. Like, that's the shirt.
Yeah, they're so biased against women. It's really a whole nother conversation, but it really is a problem. So we really rely on word of mouth. Our performers are awesome, and they really have just been spreading the word, telling their friends. Most people in LA come from somewhere else. So like we're all calling up our friends I have friends from high school that I haven't seen since high school who are like tuning into the show from North Carolina. We have people from New York, Florida, Texas, like that have bought tickets already. So it's hard. It's a lot of work, because I'd be happy to give Facebook money to advertise the show. But
right.
But Facebook does not want my money, because apparently, my boobs are too offensive. So
they're too nice. They don't want anyone to see them. They're too good.
Save them. Keep them safe. And
save them.
Yeah.
So you also teach classes, correct?
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
Oh, it's so rewarding. That's actually the biggest thing that's really killing me during quarantine. It's not that I'm not performing as often, it's that I'm not teaching. because that was so moving for me. And I never planned on teaching. A producer who owns a dance studio approached me and said, I want to do a burlesque workshop at the studio. I have a lot of dance students that want to learn something sexy, so they can sort of feel really sexy in their bodies and things. Would you be interested in doing a workshop? And I'm like, oh man, I don't know. She kind of convinced me, and I was just like, the women coming up to me after class and just telling me how comfortable they felt in their bodies and how they got to feel sexy for 2 hours and just excited about going home and doing a striptease for their partners. Like, I was just like, this is it. Like, this is so important to me now. And I feel like it's great because I won't be performing forever. Mm-hmm. But hopefully I can be teaching, as long as possible. For me, I do very classic burlesque. So that's what I teach because that's how I perform. So everything's very classic style. So I really try to make my students feel glamorous and feel really get that old school sort of femininity and sensuality and just feel really spoiled and full of glamour. So I think they get a lot out of it. And I would say about a third of my students never perform. Mm-hmm. They're just doing it for themselves. And then I've got 2/3 that have either debuted or are performing all over LA. I mean, it's like having children that you don't actually have to deal with on a regular basis. They're children and they're out and you're like so proud of them, but like you don't have to feed or clothe them. So,
and you get to see their progression, which is always so much fun.
It's like seeing them from like the first day to graduation. I really do feel like a mom. Like, yeah. I'm like hugging them and crying and just like, oh my God, you've like blossomed. I mean, I had these 2 students that came, they were so shy. My first assignment in the first class, because I do a series, like a 6-week series, and do workshops too, but mainly it's the series. So the first class, their homework assignment is, I call it Sexy Walks to the Mailbox. And the challenge is like, put on some heels, put on something you feel a little sexy in, and strut to the mailbox, strut to the end of the driveway. Or if you live in an apartment, like strut to the end of the hall, where people could see you. And I mean, they were so afraid to even do that. But it was just like every week they came out of their shells, they came out of their shells, they came out of their shells. And they opted not to perform, but they participated in the group number. One of them participated in the group number. The other one, she still did a solo. She just didn't perform it for an audience. And I was just like, you girls have transformed. It's night and day. You were afraid to put heels on and walk to the mailbox. And now you're doing this sexy group number where you're pulling off a coat. And, it's just... I think it's inside all of us as women. It's just giving ourselves permission to feel sexy and be be proud of how sexy we are.
Yeah, it's so much about it is just allowing yourself to be confident in whatever version of yourself you want to be. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah. So overall, what do you think is sexy? And you can take it however you want because we've got plenty of answers on this. Like, we had one girl who talked about a sweatshirt for 2 minutes and how comfortable it was, and that to her was sexy. But what do you consider sexy?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I think that confidence is sexy. That's like because I find so many things sexy. I find like a little look, a little glance, the way somebody moves their hand, the way someone does something when they think nobody's watching. Like, all these little moments can be so sexy. I mean, I'm like turned on all the time. Like, it's just like, I'm like, the way my dress is like hanging on the hanger. That's hot. Like, I think I see it everywhere, right? But I think the common thread is when there's this like confidence. And that's so big in like the glamour, the vintage glamour. All those women were so confident. You know, they're just laying back, just dripping in diamonds, just being like really confident about nothing, you know?
Especially like when you could still like smoke in movies and they would just sit there and the cigarette and the smoke. Like they always said that was the greatest. I was never a smoker, so in acting classes, I never got it. But like they always say that's like the greatest thing to do because it gives you something to do. So you can just sit there and like.
Yeah, nowadays I feel like it's cannabis though. Like that's the new smoking in films is using cannabis in films. It's like very like decadent.
Yes, it's because it's still the same thing. It's you're doing something so subtle. You're allowed to like just be in that moment, I guess would be the best way to say it.
Yeah, and it's like slightly naughty, but mostly legal in like
most of the state, half the
most places.
Some of the states.
Some of the states. I don't know how many. All the ones that matter.
Yeah, the good ones you want to be in. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, it's so, and you're right. It's just like, and that's it. In an essence, it's like you're not doing anything. You're just like existing, and there's this plume of smoke around you, and you can just chill and be you and drip sexy. And I love that.
Well, go ahead, Julia.
No, I was just gonna ask that, like, beyond the plume of sexy, like, there's a business aspect to burlesque. If you knew what you knew when you started, what would you tell yourself as a producer? Because I know that is always a journey.
Yeah. Ooh. Wow. I mean, I would just kind of tell myself, like, believe in yourself and go for it. Because I was very scared at the beginning. Like, I just thought, you know, I come from the film industry where there are like tiers that you achieve, right? Like you work on these smaller pictures, indie movies, then you get to like, you join the union and you get to bigger stuff. And like, so you kind of always know where you are on the ladder. But with burlesque, it's an art form. It's not, it's a business and an art, and it's not that regimented. So I felt like, am I ready for the tier? Have I hit the I can produce a show tier? I don't know. Who's gonna tell me? Like who, you know, how do I check that box?
No one other than yourself.
Right. Am I good enough to teach? Do I get certified? How can I do this? And you're right. It's just yourself and it's just your confidence. And when we started the show, we had a vision for where it was going to go, but that vision felt like so far away. Like it just felt like we're never going to get there, but like, let's just try. But we're there. Like, you know, I mean, the show just had its 4-year anniversary. We're on our 3rd venue. We've gone to bigger and bigger venues. And we love our venue. We're not leaving anytime soon. And now we're like putting on this big live stream show, which we're going to have a national audience for. Like, we've just grown. And I guess if I knew all of that was really possible, like when I started, I hoped it was possible. But there was part of me that was like, well, you don't have to put everything into it because it might not happen, you know. But once I put everything into it, like my family, you know, really just like, no, this is where I'm going, and there's no turning back. I'm stepping out of the shadow I didn't even tell my friends that I was performing for a long time, but once I made that jump, it's like we've taken off, you know, once I put it all in. So that would be, that's my advice for myself or anyone else is like, it's a dream is only a dream until you make it a reality. So make it a reality. You know?
I love that. Yeah. No, I think it's great. I mean, I kind of think the same thing. Now, you didn't come from the festival world, right? Like, are you a festival performer?
No.
I am not, and I don't compete, which...
Now, I don't either. I'm the same way. You know, I started pinups on tour and we got like pretty successful really quickly. So festivals never seemed like a super a good use of my time at the time. I love going to watch them. Absolutely. They're amazing. But like investing in the time it takes. Do you ever feel like that creates like, well, just explain, why did you choose not to do festivals? I guess I'll ask.
Yeah, a couple reasons. I love festivals as well. I love attending them. I've worked for and been a part of the Hollywood Burlesque Festival for the past 3 festivals, and I love BHOF. And if there were more festivals sort of in this area, I'd be going to them too. For me, I am not a competitor. I don't think it's easy to compete in an art form. Mm-hmm. I think like with a sport, it's very clear, like this person finished first or this person made the most goals. With an art form, it's completely subjective. And I know my style probably would not win at a festival. I might get most classic, or I might like get most seductive or something like that, but I'm not a wow performer. I'm a like, come here performer, you know, which doesn't win at festivals, and that's just what it is. Yeah. And that's totally fine, because everybody's so different when it comes to burlesque. So that's a big part of why I don't compete. Also, and this is why I don't compete in pinup contests, I'm not okay with not winning. So, you know, if I do something, I really want to win. And that's just not, I didn't want to turn it into that, you know, because look, you in a pinup contest, maybe 1 in 12 or 1 in 10 have a chance of winning. In a burlesque festival, it's even less, because there's probably like 30 or 50 performers, and it's like 1 is going to win. That's just not a stress that I want to handle. Like, you know, I know I would be so stressed out, and I probably wouldn't perform my best because I'd be so worried about winning. So that's just,
yeah.
You know.
Well, and it's absolutely not necessary to being commercially successful, which I think is, you know, something to be noted, that a lot of my favorite burlesque producers aren't festival performers. There's a lot of great festival performers that are burlesque producers, but it's definitely not everyone.
Yeah, so. It's a big investment too. You know,
yes.
it's like, this is going to be a weird analogy, but it's kind of true. It's like riding. You can ride a horse for fun all the time. You don't have to go and like get the ribbon to ride the horse.
Right. And buy the horse and feed the horse
and do all that stuff. And groom the horse and like cut, you know, take the dirt out of its feet with the
pick up the shit. You don't have to do any of it.
All of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I mean, traveling and doing festivals is incredibly expensive.
You're not going to make any money. You're not going to cover your costs. Like, you know, maybe the ones that are also strippers might be able to parlay it into a feature career, but like other than that, it's like,
yeah, I mean, just to be like quite frank, a great burlesque gig pays like $300 an act. Like a great burlesque.
Yes.
Like a great burlesque gig. And like that's what you're gonna spend on the airline ticket to a festival.
And the amount people pay on costumes is like thousands of dollars for, you know, especially when you get into the competitive, because everybody wants the Swarovski crystals and like that, you know, it's like,
I'm impressed by it all. I guess I'm too cheap to do it, I guess is what it comes to, you know?
Yeah, I'm just like I'm a princess. So it's like these girls who like drive for 12 hours and like sleep on someone's couch and then go compete. I'm like, no. I would have to fly there. I'd have to stay in a hotel so I could have a bath the night before and like relax and get in my mode. Like, I don't know how these other girls do it, but like, it would cost me so much money. And again, like the stress, that's just not me. If you like competing by nature, I'm very good friends with each of Black Nile, Veronica Voss, who's an amazing competitor. A lot of the performers in Babylon Cabaret have competed, but that is just not me.
Yeah.
I remember I've only met Veronica Voss once, and it was at a pole class in Hollywood, and it was like right after I started Pinups on Tour and right after she started doing burlesque, and she was like, I think I'm going to start competing. I think I'm going to start doing it. And I was like, you should. Like, and then like I see her stuff now and I'm like, oh my God, like it was over. I mean, it's never overnight for the performer who puts in all the effort, but it feels like she just transformed into this like goddess creature. She's amazing. I love watching her videos online.
Oh, she really is amazing. And she's a fierce competitor. And like that's who I want to see when I go to a competition.
Yeah.
I mean, when she won the Hollywood Burlesque Festival, it was like you didn't even have to wait for them to announce it. Everybody knew. Like because she just destroyed that stage. It's like it was just, yeah.
It's like watching Pearl Noir perform. She's just like, there's like a broom afterwards because
they just comes and sweeps the stage and it's like, well, good luck following that.
Yeah. I mean, we've had each of Black Nile and Cabaret, and Cat House Red, musical director, actually wrote a song for her that says, good luck to whoever comes next. Because it's like, you don't want to follow her. Because she just has an essence all her own.
Yeah. Oh, and for sure. And I remember, I mean, I've seen Egypt perform, I don't know, maybe like 4 or 5 times now over the years. I kind of like left LA as she was like kind of coming into everything. Yeah. But every time I saw her perform, I was always like, oh, that's so different. I don't know how I feel about it, but I really enjoyed it. Do you know what I mean? Where I was like, ooh, that was really fun. I don't know how I feel about it, but I really enjoyed it. Like, and then I saw her at Viva, maybe it was like 2 years ago. And I was like, that's a completely different evolved performer. It's amazing. That's the great thing about burlesque though, is people can really focus on what they want to do and create a version of themselves. That's like the best version.
Yeah. You bring in all your influences. I mean, she comes from like the strip club world and the African-American strip club world, which is like a whole nother
really different level of like,
oh my God. Yeah. She took me to one of the clubs that she used to perform in. And I was just like, whoa, this is so cool. And just like, not like any other strip club I've ever been to. It really is like another world. And then I could see like all her influences. I'm like, okay. Like I see that and I see that and I see that. And it's just so interesting because everyone has a different background.
Yeah, it's definitely an art form where as you become a better performer, you get more individualized a lot of the time, where it is like you are literally boiling down the essence of what makes you unique and then amplifying it for burlesque.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cool. Well, when is your show to promote it?
Yeah, your virtual show that's coming up.
Yes, absolutely. Is August 21st, which is next Friday. So people still have time to get tickets. They can go to babyloncabaret.com to get tickets. And we're doing something really fun. So there's a VIP party afterwards for anybody that gets a VIP ticket. And we're going to have a best dressed contest. So we'll be anybody that wants to dress up in quarantine. And the grand prize is a 30-minute Zoom date with me. So they can win a date with me. Yeah.
Well, that's worth it right there.
That's, you know, I'm like 30 minutes to do whatever you want over Zoom.
Over Zoom. Can we be clear? Over Zoom.
Socially distanced. Socially distanced.
Socially distanced. And if people want, and if people want to find you online, where can they do that?
Oh, great. Yeah, I'm on Facebook. Instagram is best because, as we talked about, Facebook doesn't really like me. So Instagram, I'm Miss MIS, period, spent youth. I'm also on OnlyFans. I get to do a lot of really cool stuff on OnlyFans that I can't do on social media because they would ban me. So check me out on OnlyFans. Same thing, Miss Spent Youth.
Nice.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so glad we got to chat. I feel like I've been like seeing you on the peripherals of my social media for years, and it's nice to put a personality with the name.
Oh, this was so fun. And I love Pinups on Tour, so this is just such an honor to be with you guys.
Oh, thank you.
Aw, thank you guys. Well, you have a great one. Bye.
Bye.
Aw, that was so fun.
I know. I agree with you. Like, I've been Facebook friends with her for years, but like I've never actually seen her perform. I've never actually been to any of her shows. So just getting a feel for her personality. You always get that through social media, but at the same time, like just interacting with somebody is always so nice.
Well, as we were streaming, Vixen DeMille commented like misspent youth, happy hands. Like
Aww.
so like I mean she clearly is loved by the community in LA and has a very stellar reputation as being a performer and a producer that like really creates cool shit. So congrats to her creating cool shit. And as she mentioned, she was making money with OnlyFans.
She was. And one of the articles we have this week is from Vice. Shocker.
Do we ever use Vice, Kat?
Actually, we have two articles from Vice this week. I didn't realize that they were both from Vice. But
do we?
That's
okay.
No big deal.
NBD.
They're doing hard-hitting, sexy, investigative journalism. And this is about OnlyFans, which is the beginning of the article kind of explains this great story, which I did not know about this woman called the Naked Philanthropist who was on OnlyFans.
I heard about this vaguely when it came out, but I wasn't as entrenched in it as the story got. But yes, I was vaguely familiar.
So the woman's name was Kayleen Ward, and she raised $1 million for the Australian bushfires by exchanging people a naked photo of her for $10, a $10 donation to the charity. I don't know if she ran it through herself or if she had people screenshot it.
Charity of me.
To the bushfires. But she ended up donating $1 million just based on dirty pictures of herself.
I mean, she's pretty sexy.
Yes. OnlyFans has been around since 2016. It broke into the mainstream in 2020. One of the reasons I wanted to talk about this a little more also is because it's very interesting because it's like your own porn. You know, it's like you can pretty much do whatever you want in terms of like very similar to camming, except it's a social media platform at the same time. And this article that Vice did took 5 of the performers that they thought did the best job of creating contact, but also interacting with their fans. And they were all very different people. This lovely girl in front of us who his name is Denise Dame, and she just like
she's pretty sexy. I picked her because I thought she was the hottest.
Oh my god! And her pictures are the hottest.
I mean, like it's like what t-shirt pictures, and like I would look her up if you're into that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. She says that her income has tripled with OnlyFans since lockdown. And all of the photos that were done on this photojournalism piece of the content creators on OnlyFans was all done via Zoom and webcams, which I found so interesting. So these shots were like posed by a photographer and then shot on a webcam.
That's like the new way to do things, though. I've seen tons of my friends in LA doing webcam shoots or shoots through windows and different things like
sliders.
that.
Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, if somebody loves getting photographed, you know, after a while you want to be photographed, so you become inventive. You know, all of the girls on this site were very different that they featured. There was a girl who was a dom up until quarantine, and then she's very into pegging, and that's her thing. So every picture had
that's her thing. Like, I mean, I get it.
Some form of a strap on. They asked each girl, or well, they're all female identifying, because we do have a transgender. Was the last one, but they asked each of them what their best gift was. The girl who is in the picture in front of us, who was Denise Dames, she said she got a pair of Christian Louboutins, and then she did a photo shoot, and the fan then sent her another pair. The girl Tasha Black, who was the begging dom girl, she said the best gift she got gifted was an apartment, which I thought was a little better than the shoes.
Well, no, that's so much better than the shoes. Here's the thing. Christian Louis Vuittons, you're aiming too low.
Right.
You're aiming too low.
Yeah.
At that point, like, there are guys that can get you apartments. So aim for the apartment.
Absolutely. It's very interesting, because another one of the girls was saying that she sometimes got offered, like, she had an encounter with somebody who offered her $300 to meet in person, and she said it was the biggest joke she had ever heard in her life, because she's like that's such a lowball number. Like, she's like, I would not get out of my house for that number. Like,
it's really true. I mean, I guess, like, out of curiosity, I'll say it's out of curiosity, whatever. I've signed up for SA. And the thing is these guys will send you these requests that are like, oh, will you meet up with me and have sex with me for like $200? And you're like, bitch, you can't get a lap dance in this city for that much. No. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. I had a very similar experience. The only experience that I've ever really had where somebody thought that professional cuddling was prostitution, because I'm usually very good about weeding them out just based on my communication. And they were like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna fuck," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And they're like, "Yeah, for $200." And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like,
why would I fuck you for $200? I hate to break it to you, but we're living in the age of COVID. The government gave me $1,000 a week to sit my ass at home. Like, are you kidding me?
I mean, like, this was a year ago, but still.
But that's still not the point.
But like, I'm like, and he's like, oh, all the girls do it. And I'm like, who are these girls with these super low standards? Like, you know,
there's so many. I think there's so many girls that are just so grateful to have anybody value them at any monetary value.
Yes.
Any monetary value. That $200 seems valid. But quite frankly, every pussy is worth more than $200.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're only worth what you're willing to settle for.
Well, that's just with everything in life, not just money, but like emotional standards, business standards, friendships,
boyfriends, all of it.
Boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever you're into. Like, if you get what exactly you're willing to settle for.
Yeah. So and that's why clarity is always important. Like, these girls know their worth. I'm sure they know exactly how much you need to pay them to get them out of their apartment. And there's somebody out there who was willing to make that contribution, because those girls know how to ask what they want, and they'll find someone who's willing to pay what they want.
Right. This one guy commented that his wife is priceless. That's really sweet.
Aww.
Aww.
Wonder who his wife is.
I know, right? I think it's great though. Honestly, at the end of the day, you do so much to kind of like, I don't know, weed through the bullshit. But people are, if they want you, they'll show you that they want you.
Right. And I think so much of life is also understanding understanding your value and then willing to trade your value based on the situation. In the world of business, in the beginning, when you're starting something, you're not going to get the rate you are once you've been doing it for 5 years, whatever it is, because like you understand your value so much more and you've gone through that experience. But it is so important to always be adjusting what your value rate is.
Yes. And for anybody that's thinking about sex work, $200 is not an appropriate rate for.
No.
I won't tell you what the appropriate rate is, but it is definitely not $200.
No.
Not. One of my favorite things about Misspent Youth is kind of her throwback to old Hollywood glamour. Yes. You found some great old Hollywood glamour tips this week, Kat.
I did, because I love like the sexy stuff and like the fun stuff like that. And this was in Marie Claire, and it was just like fun little like facts of like beauty tips, like, so for example, they talk about Marilyn Monroe, and Marilyn Monroe used 5 different shades of lipstick to make her lips look as fabulous as they do in that picture in front of us right now.
Yeah, I have 2 on right now. Do I look like Marilyn?
I have 3, and I normally it's definitely a trick that I have developed over the years, that like, you start with the darkest and then you just get like lighter. Yeah, but like some of the, Elizabeth Taylor shaved her face because it made her skin glow more. Granted, like we don't need to do that anymore because there are more modern day technologies out there.
Yeah.
But like getting rid of the peach fuzz helped in the lighting to give her that classic Elizabeth Taylor beauty complexion.
I have a fear about shaving, that if I shave my peach fuzz, it's going to come back as coarse hair. Yeah, that's what everyone always tells you, so I've never done it.
Right.
Like, yes, I would like to. Yes, like I would say once every 4 years I get a picture where the light catches the hair just right and I see the peach fuzz. Right. And I'm like, is it worth it to shave for a photo I don't like once every 4 years?
Yeah, probably not.
Probably not. Grace
Kelly was really big into contouring, apparently. She used blush to contour, but as they said, they're like, Kim Kardashian did not invent the concept of contouring, which is absolutely true. Like, because like they're basic artistic beauty aspects that people have been doing with stage makeup for years and years and years.
Well, and the nice thing about black and white film, old Technicolor film, stage makeup is that there was a certain amount of air allowed, where you could do blocky makeup and from far away it looked really, really good. Yeah. Nowadays, we live in an age of like HD, 5K, whatever the fuck they have. And you can literally see every hair on my chin. And it's just I think it's cruel, honestly. And I don't know why we decided to go that way.
Yeah, there's not the layers of gauze in between.
We need some layer of illusion in our entertainment. We don't need to see our actors perfectly. Right. I want the Vaseline over the camera when I'm looking at RuPaul. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It is definitely true. It's very interesting because I've done a couple of black and white selfie shoots because I'm a big fan of like interesting selfie shoots. And I went in knowing that I was going to then filter into black and white. So my makeup was different because I knew I could get away with more dramatic makeup that like there were lines, but I was actually needing the lines to make the shadows work, which is, I mean, it's a fun aspect. It's something that like is a hurdle to work with, but can be a lot of fun to explore. That's the thing about makeup, is that it really is an exploration, and all beauty is just bringing out the best version of you that makes you the most confident.
Yeah. I remember when I was like younger and you could actually have a black and white headshot. Like that was the goal, was to get like a really good black and white headshot.
Yeah.
And then how quickly that was obsolete.
It was, I was of the age when I got into acting and I needed headshots where like, I think my first shots were colored, but it was considered a big deal that like, they were still doing black and white headshots. And there's something to be said about that. Like there's something to be said in like that element of drama, but you do look at black and white headshots now and they're so dramatic compared to like,
I mean, quite frankly, I think I'm prettier in black and white. That's why people do black and white, is because quite frankly, it like evens out all the things that might not be great, right?
And might not be perfect. Like,
yeah, so it's like black and white's great, but it's also not what the producers are going to shoot you in nowadays. So it's not a super valid casting decision. But the tips were great.
Yes. One of my favorites was Marlene Dietrich was apparently known for getting her molars removed so that her cheekbones would be more defined.
Oh, that's so freaky.
Isn't that crazy? Like, that's such an old school Hollywood.
Is that any crazier than us getting our wisdom teeth removed, though? I
still have my wisdom teeth.
All of them?
All of them, which probably should be removed. But, like, yeah. But I had 4 teeth removed when I was 12 because my mouth is actually a very small mouth. My sister's mouth is my sister's mouth is 2 times bigger than the normal female mouth, and mine is like a size smaller than. I'm supposed to technically use a child's toothbrush because
oh, cat.
I know. The fun of dentistry, right?
No, I mean, I'm evolved. I only had 1 set of molars of wisdom teeth. So I'm evolved. My body has evolved to not have a whole set.
Are there normally 4? Is there tops?
There's normally you have tops and bottoms.
Okay. So I
only had tops and they took them out.
I think I have all 4.
You have all 4.
I have all 4.
You're not evolved, is what it's coming down to.
No, it's true. It's true. If I was a horse and they opened my mouth, they would be like, off to the glue factory.
It's so funny though, because you sit here and you're like, but honestly, like I only got my wisdom teeth weren't causing me any issues. Mm-hmm. I only got them removed because I was told you're supposed to get them removed. And my mom was like, okay, gotta get them removed. I remember I was playing Nancy and Oliver at the time, and I had a rehearsal that night with all the orphan children, the big number where it's like, Oliver, like the big number in Oliver. And I decided to go to rehearsals because I was so high on drugs. I felt fine. But then at rehearsals, I was so high on drugs, I was like running into children. Because it was like 60 children. Right. And like it was like this weaving pattern that we were supposed to do. And I just kept running into children.
That musical is so weird to me to be like the serious musicals that are like happy, and then like in the 3rd act,
and then Nancy gets killed.
Serious, like like
Nancy gets killed by domestic violence. What?
Like Carousel is like that too, and even Oklahoma. Like Oklahoma,
it was like, is this normal for men to just freak out and kill their spouses or their partners? Like, this is not normal, and we should not be normalizing with a musical number. Like,
I mean, at least with like Sweeney Todd, you know that it's gonna be like a dark musical. But like Oliver, if you look at the poster of Oliver, it's like a little boy looking up at the sky. Like, so if like you had no clue and you're like, oh, let's take the kids to this movie, and you're sitting there, and then like you're like, wait a minute. Like,
well, there's Nancy has that song that's like, as long as he needs me, and basically the whole song is about, as long as he needs me, even though he beats me and makes me cry and makes me feel bad, I'm going to be there for him because I've made this commitment to this piece of shit human.
oh my God.
Like, that is basically what this whole song is. And there's a part of me that I sing it so well, loves that song. And then the other part of me that's like, I should never repeat these words ever again in my entire life. Like, no woman should ever hear this because it's kind of like that song that's like, stand by your man. It's like, what? No, if your man is cheating and making it super public and discarding your feelings, dump his ass. Why the fuck would you stand by him if he doesn't care how his actions are making you feel?
I feel like that's so much of country music, though. My dad listens to country music, and I listen to the stories in country music as he listens to it. And I'm like, this is not a positive reinforcement half the time. Like, people are just like, oh, life is so sad. I live in a trailer. Like, you know, there was a running joke when we were kids with my sister, and she'd always say, what happens when you play a country music song backwards? And it's that you get your life back, you get your wife back, you get your trailer back, you get your money back.
It's true, though. And you kind of go like, well, is it? And there's times where when I'm going through breakups or I'm going through hard times, I choose to listen to music that might indulge in my patheticism at that time.
Right.
But that's really all it is you're just like, why are we indulging in this?
It's swallow music.
It's wallow music. It's wallow music. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
Well, speaking of women who don't wallow, let's move on to our last story that you found.
Another one
about Unionized Strippers.
Also from Vice. And pretty recent. This is August 6th, 2020. So this was an article about the National Labor Board. I'm going to get this straight. The National Labor Relations Board, which ruled in favor of strippers who wanted to unionize. And the case was involved a woman named Brandy Campbell, who was a
Where was this at, real quick?
Columbus, Ohio. And Ohio is full of strip clubs.
And full of unions.
Yes. Yes. Right. That would make sense. But full of strip clubs, like, is one of the big stripping states across our fair United States. Brandy, for the last 5 years, has been an undercover, like, stripper Norma Ray, I think would be the best way.
Okay, wait, is she an official undercover operative, or is she like a chosen self-proclaimed Norma Ray?
She's a chosen self-proclaimed Norma Ray, because she has a website, a blog called stripperlaborrights.com, and in the last since 2015 has filed unfair labor practices charges in Nevada, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. So, like, she kind of goes undercover to strip clubs and dances, and then kind of tries to unionize them, or at least, I guess, have the discussion with the dancers, and then waits out until the clubs do things that are illegal, because and then files a complaint against them.
Well, here's always been my issue with stripping, right? Like, when I like look at my major issue with stripping is, by all means, take your clothes off, work the men, let them pay you, and whatever. Like, none of that part bothers me.
Right.
What bothers me is the fact that they treat you like an independent contractor, but the way they structure their payment makes you an employee.
Right. And
that's really bullshit. It's bullshit.
And there are, I have to say, it does vary from state to state. Because I have heard of states where dancers are employees, but the thing is the moment you become an employee, and I do know that it's my understanding that after I stopped dancing at Hustler, they went the way where you could choose between the two. You could be an employee or you could be an independent contractor. The thing is when you become an employee of a club, the club can then dictate things that a lot of strippers don't want to do, which is
hours and
schedule. They then are in charge of telling you who to dance with, who to work or not. You know, it's one of those things where it's like a lot of girls are like, I want my money, I want to get it, and I want to get out. But Brandy wanted people to have the option to try and start a stripper union if they wanted to, which is why she's been going undercover to these places for like the last 5 years and trying to point out the fact that most of the clubs are treating you as an employee, even though they have you as an independent contractor. I will tell you that
is some bullshit.
When you work at a strip club, you have to sign books of paperwork. You know, it's very common for a contract to be like 15, 20 pages of this that you have to sign, and that you have to sign, and this you have to sign, and that you have to sign. And it's like, which is a plain example of something that would dictate you to be an employee, you know, versus like an independent contractor. So in this situation, she had filed for a club called Centerfold Club in Columbus, Ohio. And what happened was she was fired for engaging activities protected by the National Labor Relations Board, which I guess makes sure that you are doing fair practices when it comes to labor. She was working as an IC in 2018, and when the club found out that she had the blog, the undercover blog, they fired her. They fired her technically on a no touching rule, which I'm not 100% sure what the Ohio laws are, but there are states out there where technically the strippers are not supposed to touch the guests of the
which I'm sure is 100% followed.
Violated all the time. So it's like a law that's on the books, and then, you know, it's like in Vegas there were so many laws.
It allows them to fire somebody and not cite firing her for having a blog that exposes unfair pay practices or unfair employment practices.
Right, exactly. So then later the courts decided this was a discriminatory firing because like this was not really the truth, or was the truth, but like you can't really prosecute against it because everybody's doing it. So, you know, they now need to post a sign that says employees are free to form, join, or assist a union, choose representatives to bargain with, yada, 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 like your classic so like she is in some ways the stripper Norma Ray, where she's like giving them the options at least to unionize. I mean, it's always a question of like whether strippers would unionize or not, because like a lot of strippers just have the opinion that they're only out for themselves. You know, there are
it's a tough sell because the nature of the job is quote unquote I don't want to say like bottom, but you're seeing a level of humanity that's not the highest level of humanity, right?
Right. You mean in the gap for the people who are of the strippers?
Your Johns, the other strippers, the environment in general. There's tons of women that do it and are great and have no problems with it. There's a lot of people that are doing it or coming to the clubs that are a little bit broken, right? And like that's a reality of the job. But to like, I don't know, it just all seems like
and there's also the levels of going back to what we were talking about last week in decriminalizing sex work, is that like there are a lot of strippers that use stripping as a gateway to prostitution, that they are really just prostitutes and it's the way to advertise is through stripping. And I'm sure that those people probably do not want to unionize because they're doing something illegal, more illegal already.
Exactly. So it's like, why would I want to unionize and broadcast like that?
Right. I'm doing
anybody else.
There's a good chance that I might get caught for something that I could definitely go to jail for if I was in the wrong situation.
Well, I don't know. Unionizing strippers, pros and cons. There's a lot of pros and cons. All you strippers will have to make up your own mind. Decide for yourselves whether you want to do little Norma Rays or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
I can't decide for you. I'm not a stripper. That's not my profession. I mean, I take my clothes off on stage, but not in front
of perfect strangers.
Yes, it's very similar but different.
Very similar.
Very similar but different. That's all I think I have for us this week.
Yeah, that's all I have for you too.
Cool. Well, you guys can check out all of our videos and all of our fun stuff on our website, WTTburlesque.com. You can also check us out on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at WTT Burley. We will be back with more fun guests and great stories and all the fun things. Until next time, bye.